Just so you know, I'm not wearing a parka. This is actually my frozen blanket because it's strangely cold down here and the apartment's air conditioning system has been jacked up to the max for some odd reason. So, yes, I'm still wearing clothes. It's just freezing in here, and I hate it when it gets cold. That's why I moved from the north to the south, so I can avoid the cold weather. But unfortunately, the cold weather has invaded the south as well. But anyway, so I finally managed to go see Beauty and the Beast live action. Because originally I was not going to go see this movie because I heard from professional sources that this was pretty bad in comparison to the original animated version that Disney did. But because I'm a Disney masochist, I decided to go see it, and I dragged my two friends, Joseph and Robert, with me because they were like, why not? And if there was anything that we could agree on when it comes to this movie, we decided to give it a B minus. But in my personal opinion, this movie deserved a C. I'm just gonna get the bad things out of the way first because these things, oh my god, they stuck out with me throughout this film so bad that it basically deserved the grade that I gave it. First things first, the obvious. Emma Watson can't sing for life. Like, the moment that they started playing the opening song to this movie, and I mean the opening song that was also in the original film, like, the auto-tune was so noticeable, and if you're thinking that's actually her voice, that's why they call it auto-tuning. Like, you'd think that for Disney, for someone who can't sing, the auto-tune would be the first thing that they would fix in this movie first before it goes out to the public. No, apparently Disney was so desperate they couldn't even get that out of the way. Like, my general rule for, like, movies is concerned, and I know money plays a huge part in this, is if an actress can act the part but she can't sing the part, get a professional singer to dub the actor's voice. And for Disney, this is not foreign. They've done this before for plenty of their animated movies. They've done this a bajillion times. But apparently because it's Emma Watson and it's star power and all that, they wanted to use autotune, which is basically one of the most overused and worst musical devices to use ever. I just don't get it. I mean, all the other singers are fine. Like, the other songs, like Be Our Guest, or when they sang Gaston, or the Mob song, but all the singers there, without Emma Watson in it, are fine. Like, those people are not really singers either, except for a few, like, or like, I think one or two exceptions. They sang their hearts out, and they were actually decent. But, oh my god, Emma's performances, I think with the exception of two songs where they didn't really use the autotune, it was probably her trying to sing that time, they were just horrible. But I will get to music again later. The second thing that really bothered me the most was the script for this movie in general. Like, you can tell a script by listening to the dialogue and searching through like the actions of the characters. Like, that's how I generalize the script. One thing for sure, you can definitely tell that they recycled a lot of lines from the original movie. You can definitely tell that that was the case. But then they tried to add a couple of new lines to make the scenes work. This is technically not a bad thing, but what this annoyed me so much, or why this annoyed me so much, was that when they added the new lines with the old lines, I don't know, the language just didn't mix. And I guess what I mean by language is that it's style of speech. Like for the original Beauty and the Beast, the characters were, I guess the word will use is proper. They were more proper in the olden days where the setting took place, which is fine. Which is completely totally fine. Like, that's why Beauty and the Beast is considered to be the animated one anyway. One of the best movies of all time. Like, language was not the issue in that one. But in this movie, they wanted to keep the properness of the old movie, but then they wanted to, like, I don't know, modernize or even, like, set it in another time period that just didn't mix. And it doesn't technically ruin the characters, but it definitely makes there's an unbalance. Language creates an unbalance if used wrong in the script, and the script was definitely not the best one written for a live action version of a classic animated film. And speaking of that, their editing choices were also extremely weird, and I'm not talking about Emma's auto-tuning. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about with camera and setting. For one thing I've noticed, for some scenes, all of a sudden they would go into a blackout for literally no reason whatsoever. Like one example, like at the end of Be Our Guest, like the moment the song ended and then Belle gives her like applause like that does in the animated movie, it goes to black, and then it flashes back in with Belle and Mrs. Potts at the lobby of the castle. And I was just like, why was that necessary? There wasn't an explicit scene change. Like, it was just going from maybe first couple minutes to the next couple minutes, or maybe like 1 hour to another hour. And a proper transition for that would be just a fade cut, which like you can fade out of one scene and go into another. And that just sounds about right. Usually blackouts are to signify two things. One, if there's going to be a major time change, like maybe it would span a whole ton of years. Or it would completely change place. Like it could go from a nice serene field to the bustling city. That would make complete total sense. But no, like these strange blackouts would literally fade into a similar time frame and in the same location. And I'm just like, these blackouts make absolutely no sense. There's literally no purpose. And the second time like they would really use blackout is for like if the movie is really going to end and it ends on a huge note, they would do a blackout. And of course, knowing how like this movie apparently loves to use their blackouts, they did a blackout at the end too. And I thought that was the most proper place of putting it. Like, they should never have blacked out in the middle of the movie. Like, just what the heck, Disney? Another editing choice that ticks me off was when they were showing, like, the new rooms that Belle's in. Like, there's 2 times that they do this. They do it for Belle's room, and they do it for the library. Both of those times, the camera literally circles around too fast. Like, you see, like, one moment you see a part of the wall, the next moment you see a huge blur, and for a second I was like, actually both of those times I was like, am I watching this movie in 3D? Because I literally could not see a bit of detail in those rooms, which, if you do a circle, a camera circle like that, that signifies that this room is supposed to be of importance. And they couldn't even do that right. It was like they were banging on the fact that, oh, you've probably seen the animated version. You already know what this room looks like. Well, considering how Disney has been trying to make this a different movie, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't prove anything. I think both of those things are what gives this movie an F in the editing department as I regard it, because I was just like, I don't know whose idea was it to make those random blackouts or the fast circling with the camera as a style choice, because it provided absolutely nothing to the film as a whole. Nothing. And now to the one thing that I think pisses me off more than Emma Watson's auto-tuning. It's the whole giant announcement of, we have a gay character in this movie. First of all, it's not really hard to tell who they decided to make quote-unquote gay. Second of all, I think Disney tried to pull it off as a joke. Like, okay, the gay character is LeFou. I think everyone knew that. Everyone knew this. Even if you haven't seen the movie yet, everyone knew that Disney was gonna make LeFou as the gay character. First of all, if you know Josh Gad and his past movie roles, with the exception of Olaf from Frozen, you know very darn well that he tries to create characters that are, I wouldn't say larger than life, but maybe more very stereotypical. Because he's mostly in comedies, and that's what they do. He tried doing the same thing in this movie, but for LeFou's case, he tried to make being quote-unquote gay as a personality trait. Who thought that was a good idea? One thing, you just offended the whole entire LGBT community by saying their sexuality is a personality trait. Because the last time I checked, it's not. It's not. I mean, I'm not gonna explain the things that Josh Gad tries to do with this character, but there is this one scene during, or one moment in the song Gaston, where Gaston and LeFou are in this pose, and then LeFou's just like, too much? And Gaston is just like, yeah. There's supposed to be a joke there. There's supposed to be a joke in the majority of the scenes that LeFou's in, but in all honesty, there is no joke. There is nothing funny about using sexuality as a personality trait. In fact, Disney, how the director or Josh Gad decided to make this character as a gay character in a Disney movie, it's more insulting than it is funny. Like, I found myself super duper awkward every time I saw Josh Gad on the movie screen, like, doing those, like, stupid stereotypical gay guy things. Because literally he's turning it into a personality rather than just a fact about a person. And I am sick and tired of Hollywood deciding to put LGBT representation as a personality than an actual part of a person's being. It just makes me sick. Okay, now to the things that I actually did like after I bitched enough about the things that I hated about this movie. let's return to the soundtrack, because that was the prime feature of this movie, no doubt. And as I said before, like any song or like any part of a song that does not have Emma Watson's auto-tune in it was perfect. Okay, I kind of lied. Maybe not when Dan Stevens was singing Evermore, because honestly, I like the Josh Groban version better. But that's not the case. Like, if I had to list a couple of my favorite songs in there, it had to be the new finale version of the whole movie, which is the Beauty and the Beast reprise. I really liked the new version of Gaston for some odd reason. I loved the new version of Mob Song. I even love the new version of the Beauty and the Beast song with Emma Thompson singing it this time, because she's actually not a bad singer when you think about it. Be Our Guest was very, very fun. And then when it comes to the new songs, How Does a Moment Last Forever makes me cry every single time I listen to it. Days in the Sun makes me cry every single time. Like I said, Josh Groban's Evermore was completely perfect. Like, all those songs I would definitely be buying on iTunes as soon as I get money for it. And if you notice, as I was listing what they all have in common, with the exception of Days in the Sun and the How Does a Moment Last Forever reprise, they don't really have Emma Watson in them. So they did add a couple more scenes to this movie, because for some odd reason, they wanted to make this movie 2 hours instead of like an hour and a half like the other movie was. I mean, I didn't mind the length of the film as long as it kept me interested, and I didn't really have an urge to leave the theater except for the opening song, because I did not want to stay to hear Emma Watson. Okay, I'll stop bitching about that. But the new scenes, like, they extended some of the scenes, or they added another storyline. I originally thought I was gonna hate those, but they didn't turn out so bad. Like, the one scene that kind of irked me was when Beast introduces Belle to a magical book that could literally take them anywhere. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil like what happens as we go further into that scene, but like I can tell the director like wanted to put something in there about Belle that we didn't get to see in the animated version, which I find to be good. But the problem is the book doesn't come back. And if you want to make a movie do justice, you gotta bring some elements back. And this movie hadn't been doing that for the majority. But the book is never brought back at all after that scene. Like if I could have seen it at the end or whatever, like that would be completely totally fine. But they don't even bring it back. And it doesn't really bother me that much, because I did like what the purpose of this whole like book was for that moment. But the fact that they didn't bring it back was very weird. And it was like, without the book, that they could have literally done anything to put Belle in a place of confronting her past, I guess. That's how I'm gonna leave it to you. If you really want to know what happens in that scene, I recommend you go watch the movie yourself. And okay, one last thing. Because in the new scenes, they expanded some of the characters that were mostly relevant to the first film and we wish we would have seen more of. And the two characters that I mean are Belle's father and Gaston. Gaston, you didn't really see a lot in the animated film to begin with. So, I mean, in the animated film, we just see him as this, like, cocky jerk who's known as the hero of the town, but we don't really know why. We just know he's a great shooter. In the live-action movie, he was actually a soldier for the French army, so you can kind of see where he gets his cockiness from. And there are more scenes in there that just proves that Gaston is not really the pure-hearted person the whole town thought he was. And for Maurice's case, we didn't get to see much of him because we see him discover the castle, then he gets the Belle, like, exchanges places and all that, and then we see him at the end when Belle returns to him. But, okay, Maurice's character goes more into Belle's backstory, which I personally like because it connects the characters. And second thing, Maurice also has more interaction with Gaston, which I thought was very useful because Gaston wants to marry Belle, but what does Maurice have to say about it? We didn't really see that in the animated movie, so in the live action I really appreciated that. And also with Maurice's personality, instead of being like the kooky inventor, like, you still see he's a little bit not, I'm not gonna say like mentally stable, not mentally, like, not mentally stable, but you can see there's something off, but you can tell he loves his daughter very much, and he will do absolutely anything for his daughter. So, all of that I really appreciate, just as a storyteller in my own right. I just wish that if I were making this movie, I would have changed a lot of what Disney did as far as editing and script was concerned, because there were plenty of things that were still very off-putting that almost made me forget about the good things of this movie, and in my opinion, that is not good at all. So as far as recommending this movie is concerned, I'm gonna use something that one of my favorite movie reviewers said. He said, if you go into this movie expecting to love it because you love the original movie, you actually might really like it. However, if you go into this movie knowing that you're going to hate it, you're definitely going to hate it. And in my perspective, I went into this movie having pretty low expectations, but I wanted to like it, so I guess that's what made me say, I see the good things, but then again, I see the problems that the other reviewers were talking about. So that's how I sort of came up with my own little conclusion. I hope you guys liked this review, and if you did, at least I hope you do, I would hope you click on the like button down below around this vicinity here of the video screen. I would really appreciate it. And if you've seen the movie and if you want to share your opinions, I don't care what they are. If you really love this movie or if you really hate this movie, I don't care what it is. Feel free to share them in the comment section below. I would really love to hear it. And if you want to see more of my fun stuff, I suggest that you go to my channel and look at it. And if you want to see more that's coming up soon, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That'll keep you updated for sure. Anyway, it's been really fun talking about this movie, and I hope to post another video very soon. I'm Kate Scher, and it's been real. Bye-bye.